ونستعين ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Inshallah, as we said before, we'll try to discuss the different manners that's supposed to be basic characteristics of the believers, and that the deen of Islam is matters of belief, matters of worship, and what adorns this, as Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said in the Aqidah al-Wasatiyah, that the akhlaq or the manners of the believers adorns their belief and their worship. So without the akhlaq, then there's a huge deficiency. And the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, I was sent to perfect the good manners. Because if a person, as we said before, if he has the right manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that would definitely have its effect towards others and dealing with others. So every single manner that we talk about, you would have a portion of this. The most important of it is between the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the believer, and the creator of the heavens and the earth. And also part of it is to be towards others. So we'll try to discuss it, inshallah ta'ala, these manners with verses of the Quran, hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the early generations of Islam. And the purpose of that is that we apply this in our lives and to try to perfect our ways and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness with regards to our shortcomings. And this characteristic with this matter, inshallah, that we discussed tonight, if not, then if we didn't finish it tonight, inshallah, we can continue it next week, is at-tawadu'. Tawadu' means to humble oneself, as they translate it. And we'll talk about it, the meanings of it. The ulama, when they defined at-tawadu', to humble oneself, they say, or as one of the early generations of Islam, he gave that comprehensive definition. He says, tark al-tara'us, is to stay away from trying to be ahead, to trying to be a leader or ahead of others and so on. And karahiyat al-ta'zim, to hate to be praised. When a person hates to be praised, that's a sign of humbleness. If a person loves to be praised, right, this is the sign of the opposite. Although this is in the nature of every human being, we love to be praised. And whoever denies that he doesn't like this, right, he is not being honest and truthful. But it's something that you would choose to have. You would choose as a result of one's iman, that you would choose to hate to be praised. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best what's in the hearts. And the hearts are in between two fingers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Change it the way He wills subhanahu wa ta'ala. And al-'ibra bil-khawatim, and what really matters is the end life of a person, that he is steadfast all of his life till he ends his life, and he's given the bishara and the glad tidings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the angels. So there is no need for a person to be liking so much to be praised, or people praising one another, because again, nobody knows who will continue to be steadfast on the truth. So this is another meaning of at-tawadu', is to hate to be praised. And also, as they say, وَالزِّيَادَةُ فِي الْإِكْرَامِ, that you will be doing ikram or generosity or kindness to others. And this is a sign of humbleness, because those who are arrogant, they don't like to do good things for others. Humble people, they will do it for others. It doesn't matter who are they, whether they are rich or poor or whatever, they are always liking to be kind to others. And to stay away from being boasting with one's status and one's wealth. To always be proud of oneself, of one's status and one's wealth, reminding others all the time of who that person is and what's his level in the society, or who is his father, or who his ancestors, or to remind others with regard to his wealth and so on. And to stay away from arrogance, of course, which is the opposite of at-tawadu'. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلام. The end of Surah Al-Furqan talking about the characteristics of the believers. The first one that was mentioned after the call that they are the slaves of Ar-Rahman. Such an honor for them to be called that they are Ibad Ar-Rahman. They are the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Ar-Rahman, to show that they have been chosen. Who are they? الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ, walking on the earth, هَوْنًا. Hawnan means something soft. What does it mean to walk on earth softly or humbly? Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said, أي سكينة ووقارا متواضعين غير أشرين. That they walk with tranquility, with respect, in state of humbleness. They are not arrogant, and they are not looking down at others and walking in a way that people would see that they're walking in an arrogant way. And also, as Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, he said, ulama, hulama. They are people of knowledge and they have forbearance. They have the attribute of al-hilm. And also, Muhammad ibn Hanafiyya rahimahullah, he said, أصحاب وقار وعفة لا يسفهون وإن سفه عليهم حلموا, which means they are people of respect and people of عفة, meaning that they're not looking at what others have. They're not wanting something from anyone. And it's something that has to do with what's in the heart. And التطلع, or to be always, or tashawuf, a person wants to have what others have, even if he doesn't say anything, that would lead him to do certain things. So they are like this, and if someone treat them or deal with them with some foolishness, they would respond with forbearance and with goodness, without, of course, doing something that sometimes people confuse with al-tawaddu is al-tadallul, is to be humiliated in a negative way. Definitely, nobody would like to be humiliated. But to be humiliated is when a person don't have a choice. He's the weaker side and someone stronger than him humiliating him. So he has no means to protect himself. But at-tawaddu is when a person can do otherwise. He can act arrogantly and he would go by with it. And but he would choose to humble himself. Right? So this is usually when a person has something towards those who do not have much, or when a person towards those who are in the same level with him. So whether it's in the same level or someone less than him, then he would humble oneself. This is not tadallul, this is not humiliation, because they know that if he chooses, he can act arrogantly, but he chose to act in a humble way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he praised the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. That it's by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the Prophet sallallahu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the Prophet sallallahu, لِنْتَ لَهُمْ, you become very soft towards them, meaning the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. And if you are فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ, if you are harsh and your heart is غَلِيظ, is harsh towards them, لَانفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ, they would disperse from you, they won't be with you, which shows that how in matters of da'wah, and actually not just for matters of da'wah, for a person to be loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it's in the context of praise here, that a person is soft towards others, towards the believers. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the Prophet sallallahu to do what? To the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and to his ummah, فَعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. فَعْفُ, pardon them, which we will talk about. This is one of the practical means of being humble, because the word humble, everybody would like it, but we have things in our deen. This is knowledge, not something left to our opinions or how we are raised to think what tawaddu is. No, we have to learn it from the deen, because the deen will give us a new perspective of tawaddu. And I'm sure, inshallah ta'ala, if you never heard statements from the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the people of knowledge with regards to the tawaddu, you would hear things that you never heard before. It will give you a new perspective of what tawaddu is. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the Prophet ﷺ, as a result of being lenient towards them, is to pardon them and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their forgiveness, and to وَشَوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, to take their opinions, of course in the matters that it's not already ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have the shura or the mashura with them. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. If you are determined, the decision is made, then put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go forward. That has great benefits. especially when people dealing with one another and they have someone that is leading them and how to interact with one another. And that's why the ideal way or the righteous way is that the leader would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who he is leading them, right? And they would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him, not the opposite. And one of the signs of the evilness among this relationship is when they make dua against one another. You would find the people are making dua against the leader and the leader is making dua against them. Right? This is definitely the opposite of what's supposed to be, and a sign of injustice and so on. And there are many verses of the Quran, one of which also in Surah Al-Qasas, تلك الدار الآخرة نجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا ولا عاقبة للمتقين. The hereafter, الدار الآخرة, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that we would make it for who? For those who do not want, لا يريدون, they don't want, they don't seek علوا في الأرض. علوا meaning comes from being high. They don't seek any means of superiority over the earth. They don't seek it. But people, they have to have someone above them, someone in charge. But for the believers, they don't seek it. Right? If it happens that they have the means and it's given to them, right, then they take it with its rights. And that's why in Islam, it is not permissible for us to seek leadership. Right? It's something to be given because people, they have to have leaders. So it's something to be given to those who are qualified to do this, and they have to humble themselves and apply the laws that we heard. But to desire it, to want it, this is not a good thing because it's hasra wa nadama in the day of judgment. It's a source of regret in the day of judgment. And ma min amir ashara, there is no one that would lead 10 people unless he would come in the day of judgment, as it's mentioned in the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he would come in the salasil, in chains. Right? We know that the person is innocent unless proven guilty, right? No, he comes in the day of judgment, he's not yet, no hisab yet, no reckoning yet, no questions yet. He comes in chains till he free himself. So he has to free himself, right, from the chains. That means he has to prove that he was good and just and so on. You see the difference?
Managers and directors also?
Say what?
Is it for the company's project managers and directors also?
If anything of any form of leading, right?
Leading like
definitely a person has to be just, right? The ulama, they say, and again, this is not something that a person would run away from his responsibility, because somebody has to lead, right? So when a person would do it for the sake of Allah, because that somebody has to be there, then he will be rewarded. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he said the 7 types of people that will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of judgment, one of them, or the first one that was mentioned, Imamun Adil, right? A just ruler. So he can, a person when he's leading others, if he's just, he can reach the highest levels. But the more the person reaches high and high, the more that if he falls, he breaks his neck, as they say, right? So the more the person seek the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be in such positions, the reward is so much that at the same time, the neglect or the forgetfulness or whatever causes the person to be in great danger. So this ayah, the believers, those who seek the hereafter, they don't like to be superior on the earth, and they don't want to be وَلَا فَسَادًا, and they don't corrupt, and that's what really meant. But if a person will establish the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is meant by superiority here for the sake of the dunya, for the sake of this world, not for the sake of Allah, for the sake of being rich, status, to abuse others, to deal with them with injustice, to gain some whatever, all materialistic things. This is definitely condemned. But for someone to have any form of leadership, whether it's even teaching others or whatever, and a person is using it in the right way and having the sincerity, definitely this is one of the best things to be done. And as we know that Wulat al-Amr, those who are in charge, are the ulama and the umara, the people of knowledge and the leaders, right? The amirs and so on. So nobody would say a person should not seek knowledge. This is the most virtuous thing. But to take it with its rights and to humble oneself and so on. As they say also, one of the early generations of Islam, he said when you even deal with 2 children, right? And he said, give the example when 2 children come to you and they tell you whose handwriting is better. Right? You have to be careful. This can take you to the hellfire. Right? If you would deal with them with injustice. Right? You put down one, or you have to deal with it with hikmah and justice, right? And goodness. Like for example, if you say that this handwriting is better, right? But then you have to do something to the one that his handwriting is less, so that you don't break his heart. Yes, but you cannot be unjust in this, even if it's still children thing, right? So to that extent, a person has to be just and fair and merciful and so on.
You can't say both are excellent.
If it's a matter of judgment, you have to be honest and truthful. Like for example, exams, right? And somebody is super. You cannot just make him with everybody else. You have to apply what justice is. But then at the same time, you can encourage those who didn't do well. There's nothing wrong with that. But as far as justice is concerned, a person has to be just. But without, again, undermining those who they are in need of help and so on. The Prophet ﷺ said in some of the hadith, وَمَا تَوَضَعَ أَحَدٌ لِلَّهِ إِلَّا رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ. There's no one that would humble himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would raise him. Because the tawadu' comes in the meaning of going down to earth. And if a person is like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would elevate him. Opposite to what people would stay away from tawadu' because of. Right? They don't want to be humiliated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would raise them if it's done for the sake of Allah. And we'll get to see inshallah what does that mean, because again a person might have a distorted meaning of this. Also the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith in Sahih Muslim, إِنَّ اللَّهَ أَوْحَى إِلَيْهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to me, which is this hadith is always mentioned in the evidence that the sunnah is wahy. Sunnah is wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to me, أَن تَوَضَعُوا, that you should humble yourself to one another, حَتَّى لَا يَفْخَرْ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ, so that nobody will boast over another, وَلَا يَبْغِي أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ, so that nobody will transgress over another. And the hadith in Sahih Muslim. There's a hadith also of the Prophet ﷺ, reported by Imam al-Tirmidhi. It's authentic hadith. Shaykh Almanara rahimahullah authenticated it. من ترك اللباس تواضعا لله وهو يقدر عليه دعاه الله يوم القيامة على رؤوس الخلائق حتى يخيره من أي حلل الإيمان شاء يلبسه. Which means this hadith needs to have the right understanding also. Whoever leaves al-libas, leaves clothing, certain types of clothing, tawadu'an lillah azza wa jalla, with the intention to be humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وهو يقدر عليه, and he is capable of having it. He's capable to wear the best clothes whatsoever. But he choose not to, and to choose to wear something less. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call him in the day of judgment, على رؤوس الخلائق, in front of all the creation, right, to honor him, so that he will choose from which hulal, from which garment of al-iman he would wish to wear. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will honor him in front of all the creation of Allah with wearing something that nobody can ever imagine, which is hulal al-iman. Allah knows best what would that be, right? The garments of al-iman. What does that mean? Shaykh Ibrahim rahimahullah, when he explained this hadith, he said it's all according to where the person is living. If a person is living in an environment where there's poor people, he should not break their hearts, right? Especially if he's someone that people look up to, right? If they are poor and he comes wearing the super clothes, right? That can break the hearts of the poor. It doesn't mean that he should wear the clothes of the poor people. No, because this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created people, rich and poor. And one of the benefits of this is that the rich, there are signs of being rich. And the poor, there are signs of being poor. So that people will interact with each other accordingly. So the poor, when he sees the rich, right, the rich will give the poor. Right? But if he looks like the poor, this is an easy way to avoid giving sadaqah, for example. Right? And this is against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. So, but the point is, to wear something so extravagant when there are poor people, this is what is meant, to break their hearts. If a person is living in an environment where everybody is wearing a certain types of clothing that is, relatively expensive or something like this, then he should be with the norm of the people, so that he does not show off humbleness, because this is another evil thing. To show yourself that you're a humble person, in front of people, for example, that are rich, so they have means of clothing and so on. So you would, look funny in front of them, and a way for them to praise you. Say, mashallah, he's very humble, see how his clothes are very simple and so on. But again, as long as it's not haram, and it's all permissible, not imitating the disbelievers and so on, what is special for them. And again, this is all about extravagance. You understand that? And maybe inshallah we'll talk about it more later on. And there are many hadith that shows the virtues of this, and one of which is to be with those who are weak, with those who are poor sometimes, and to be kind to them and so on. As the authentic hadith in Abi Dawud and Tirmidhi, where the Prophet ﷺ said, ابغوني في ضعفائكم فإنما ترزقون وتنصرون بضعفائكم, which means look at me, look for me where your poor are. Prophet ﷺ used to go to be with them and to be kind to them, and he said, because indeed you are provided for and you are given victory by your poor, by your weak among you. So the weak among any ummah, right, of the Muslims, they are the source of provisions, rizq and victory by their dua and so on, because the more the person is weak, the more his dua is more humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has no means to be arrogant. And arrogance in the heart prevents the person from having dua to be accepted. So this is also the authentic hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said a very strong statement with regards to al-tawadu. She said, إِنَّكُمْ لَتَغْفَلُونَ أَفْضَلِ الْعِبَادِ al-tawadu. She said that you indeed are in ghafla, in forgetfulness, from one of the best acts of worship, which is al-tawadu, to humble oneself. And Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu, the head of the ulama of this ummah, he said radiallahu anhu, لَا يَبْلُغُ عَبْدٌ ذَرَ الْإِيمَانِ, no slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would reach the highest level of al-iman till the tawadu' أحب إليه من الشرف وما قل من الدنيا أحب إليه مما كثر, and so on, that he would love the tawadu' more than he would love the high status and being honored and so on, and he would take what is less from this dunya is more beloved to him than what is more. That means a person might have more, but in his heart he does not attach to this what is more. He does not love it so much. It doesn't matter to him whether he have less or more. But if he has more, he would know the rights of what it means to have more, and to definitely not to forget about oneself, and to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to make what is halal haram, so that a person choose to live a tough life when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had bestowed on him his bounty. So a person to eat good food, to wear nice clothes, to have a big house, these are all good things, as long as the person is fulfilling the rights of Allah, and he's humble to others, and he is given his zakah and charity and so on and so forth. The tawadu' or the humbleness is not just towards people. The most important and the most virtuous tawadu', which we will talk about on the types of tawadu', is to have humbleness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the heavens and the earth. And that's why Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, rahimahullah, when he was asked about al-tawadu', he said, يَخْضَعْ لِلْحَقِّ وَيَنْقَادْ لَهُ وَيَقْبَلُهُ مِمَّنْ قَالَ, which means that a person that is humble, he is someone that submits himself to the truth. It doesn't matter if he has been all of his entire life doing one thing. Once he realized that the truth is something else, he would submit. There's no problem whatsoever to change his whole entire life if he realizes that this is the truth. This is a sign of humbleness, otherwise a person is arrogant. And to submit yourself to follow the truth and to accept it from whoever said it, even if it's your enemy. If he says the truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it come from the one that you hate so much, right? You accept it and you humble yourself to it, and never to reject it whatsoever. Abdullah ibn Mubarak said something, rahimahullah, a statement very also important when it comes to the practicality of the tawadu', of humbleness towards others. He said, the head of the tawadu', to be among those who are humble, that you أن تضع نفسك عند من هو دونك في نعمة الدنيا حتى تعلمه أن ليس لك بدنياك عليه فضل. Which means that when you put yourself down to the one that is less than you in matters of dunya, right? Less than you in wealth, in status, someone that is poor, weak, so you put yourself in his level to the extent of which that you would inform him, he would see from you, from your actions, that your dunya, the materialistic things that you have that makes you superior over him, wealth or status or whatever, that you have no virtue or you're not better than him by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had gave you from wealth and status and looks and so on. Understand this point? So when a person, because these things that is given from matters of dunya has nothing to do with who is better in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So when you're dealing with those who are poor or less than you in status or poor, you would do something, right? So that they would feel, they would see it clearly, that you don't act like you're better than them in whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. Right? This is what at-tawadu' means. There are many examples of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and there are so many. If we just go on with this, we need a seminar actually to talk about the tawadu' and how the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, how the Prophet ﷺ and his tawadu', many incidences from the life of the Prophet ﷺ that we're supposed to imitate and so on. But briefly, there are 3 levels of at-tawadu', and this is what the people of knowledge, when they mention based on the ayat and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the first one is at-tawadu' lid-deen, to humble oneself to the deen of Islam. And what does that mean? Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said, أَلَّا يُعَارِضَ بِمَعْقُولٍ مَنْقُولًا, that you don't dispute with your ma'qul, right, with your intelligence, with your mind, what is manqul, which is the text, the wahy, right? You don't oppose the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by what you think. Who are you to oppose or to know better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbids something, the matter is over. Who are we to say, no, it's better this way or that way? This is a very dangerous thing. It's worse, far worse than the sin itself. A person might commit the sin of riba wal-'iyadhu billah, right? Which is a major sin, one of the destructive sins. But someone else, he would deal with the usury, with the riba, and inside of his heart, he looks into the order of Allah as if it's not applicable in this life. It's not, wal-'iyadhu billah, a person might think that, no, it's better for oneself and for the economy and for the world for people to deal with riba. This attitude, this something, if it's present in the heart, this is something can lead the person to kufr wal-'iyadhu billah. Why? Because of this arrogance. This is a sign of arrogance, that he does not humble himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and so on. وَلَا يَتَّهِمُ لِلدِّينِ دَلِيلًا وَيَرَى إِلَى الْخِلَافِ سَبِيلًا, which means he should not accuse the deen of anything, because the deen is perfect from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whether we know the wisdom behind things or not, it doesn't matter, right? But it's definitely for the best of this life and in the hereafter. It's not just to test us and to make it difficult for us, but the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make things easy in this life and in the hereafter, and to never oppose anything from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought. And this subject, when you look and you analyze the life of people, when people oppose something from the deen of Islam, you would find it, as Ibn Qayyim also rahimahullah, he said, they would do that based on 4 things. The intellectual things, right? What people will have as opinions, right? They think, I think that this is right and you think, and so on. Well, qiyas, the bad analogy of things that would make the person turn away from the clear evidences in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to use al-qiyas or analogy for whatever. And this is usually those who refer to themselves as being people of knowledge. They would turn away from the clear evidence and they would use analogy, for example. Wal-dhawq, right, to the taste, right? And we talked about that before. Al-dhawq, the taste, which usually work with Sufism and so on. It tastes good to make this act of worship that is bid'ah, innovation in the deen. Opposing the clear text, the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it tastes good, it feels good, right? Was-siyasa, siyasa usually translated as politics, right? Those who are in charge or the leaders or so on, they will turn away from the deen, right? Because it's against how the rulings to others would be, right? So this is usually the different categories of people when they oppose the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, and so much details when it comes to this. The second level this is the first level, which is to make humbleness to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second one is towards others and to humble oneself to other human beings, right? And there's a very important point here. Your brother for the sake of Allah, a Muslim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose him to be his slave. And you won't want him to be your brother for the sake of Allah, this is a crime. Right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose him to be a slave of Allah, right, and this arrogant person would, doesn't want him to be his brother for the sake of Allah, this is bad manners, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose that person to be a believer, to be a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means we have to humble ourselves. It's out of the fact that you are humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you love that person for the sake of Allah, and you humble yourself to him because he is a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he chose to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as they say, part of this, to be humble towards others, is to be like this, is to deal with the Muslims as brothers for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second point is that you would never turn against your enemy any truth. Your enemy, you have to deal with him with justice and never to deal with him with arrogance. Right? And that's why they say the most happiest person is that his enemies are wise and just. Right? Because your friends or your close people to you, okay, they're treating you nice, but what about your enemies? If your enemies are unjust, if they are foolish, if they are crazy, right, you are in danger. But if your enemies, those who hate you, they want to get you so bad, but they are fair and just and wise, then you're a happy person. There's nothing for you to fear, unless you're a criminal yourself, that's a different situation. But they will treat you with justice. So a Muslim, and that's why in Islam, it's amazing that anyone that is righteous, which is opposite to how evil people they would spread about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A Muslim, it is haram for him to be unjust under any level, under any condition. Even if he is oppressed and tortured and being dealt with all means of injustice, it's haram for him to oppose this with injustice. So how can then a person, there is no one on the face of the earth basically, that people would feel safe with better than a righteous Muslim, if he knows his deen well. Why? Because dhulm is haram under any level. There is no way there is an exception to this. No exceptions whatsoever. So even if it's your enemy, he has a right, you have to give him his right. And to accept from those who apologize to you, their apology. Otherwise, a person is arrogant. If someone would humble himself, right, to come and apologize, who are we to reject this apology? And you know that this is something that is difficult in oneself, right? We have this in ourselves. It's very difficult to apologize for anyone, even if you are wrong. It's a very difficult thing to go and say to someone, not the apology that sometimes the children, they say they don't care, they don't mean it, I'm sorry, and you run away. No, you really mean it. And you go to someone, you say, accept my apology, I apologize, I'm sorry that I did this. This is not an easy thing. Right? It needs for a person to suppress this arrogance inside. So when someone comes to you and he did harm to you, right, and he's not playing around, he's saying, I apologize. If he said it, right, take it from him. Otherwise, this is against humbleness. But what if he is saying in falsehood? If you have a right, take your right. Nobody will ever say, don't take your right. Take your right. But as far as the apology, accept it. Even if it's wrong, even if he is saying it as just lying. Leave his insight to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not order us to check what's in the hearts of people. And to start analyzing what's in the hearts of people, this is not good. But you might say, but he apologized, but he owes me money. Yeah, take your money, no problem. But accept his apology. Take the means to get your money, whatever there is. But accept the apology. Even if you know that he is not really sincere, Allah knows best. Leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would reward you for this. The third level is that you would, which is close to the first one, is that you would humble yourself to the truth and you would choose to stay away from your opinion if you find that what is right is with someone else. And again, this is close to that one and the first one. The ulama, they talked about one last point, inshallah ta'ala, because we're taking too much time here, is to be humble in oneself. That as Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, the statements of a Salaf, and this is the amazing ones. One of the things that he said that from the tawadu' is when you go out of your home, you don't see a Muslim unless you would really think that he's better than you. And how many people would be able to do that, right? Because you don't know again what's going to happen to you in your life. Allah knows best. Who's going to continue to be steadfast? So to make the decision that I'm better than this sinner Muslim, who knows? Maybe he would repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his life would change. And a person would, go in a different direction. So to look at the person in a way that maybe he's better than you, right? Not to look down at people. And this is something that this is how they purified their hearts from any form of arrogance. When they look at anyone, doesn't matter whether they are, poor or rich or whatever, that they are better than oneself. And this is definitely one of the signs of tawadu' or humbleness. And to be humble in matters of seeking knowledge. If a person does not humble himself, he would never learn. Seeking the knowledge of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs humbleness. There are many stories when it comes to this, right? And as Al-Asma'i, he said, مَنْ لَمْ يَحْمِلْ ذُلَّ التَّعَلُّمِ سَاعَةً بَقَى فِي ذُلِّ الْجَهْلِ أَبَدًا. Whoever is not patient to humble himself or to humiliate himself to learn for an hour, he would then stay in the humiliation of al-jahl or ignorance forever. Right? So that means it's worth it for a person to humble himself to knowledge so that he would gain a great reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and high status in this life and in the hereafter. And there are many stories when it comes to this. We know the hadith where the man, he said, Wallahi la yaghfirullahu li fulan at-ta'alli ala Allah azza wa jalla. Person start praising himself or liking himself so much that you would say, Wallahi, Allah would never forgive so and so. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, who is this that yata'alla alayhi, swearing on me to forgive and not to forgive? I forgive him and I make you among the people of the hellfire. This was a righteous man, there was someone that is worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, abid and so on. But why? When a person would have this arrogance when he doesn't feel it. So a person definitely has to be aware of this. Inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us life next time, we can talk about some of the incidences that the ulama said about the Prophet ﷺ, how he was humble alayhi salatu wasalam, and the Sahaba, Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali and others, how they applied this in their life, so that also we have the same when it comes to our relationship with one another and with the Ummah at large. And the most important thing is to humble ourselves to the truth. Whenever the truth is clear, then the person would submit himself to this and to be happy and to be so pleased that someone, as Umar radiallahu anhu, he would say, Rahimallahu mra'an ahda ilayna ayubana. He said, may Allah have mercy on anyone that would give us as a gift our faults. Right? They used to be so happy if somebody would come and point a fault. This is great. Because why? Because their concern is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person cannot see his faults. Like we think that we know ourselves very well, and actually no. So, the people are mirrors for us. So if a person is sincere enough to point our faults, they used to be happy with this, not to reject it. Who are you to talk to me? Look at yourself first. And a person would be humble enough to accept this. Why? Because it's a great ni'mah. Sometimes it even comes from the enemies when they try to expose you. Right? It's the great favor that they are doing to you so that you would correct this fault, so that a person is a better person. Continue, inshallah ta'ala.